Welcome, everyone, to the Thursday edition of Fair Territory. I'm Ken Rosenthal here with Alanna Rizzo. I am coming to you from a secret, undisclosed location in Port Charlotte, Florida at Rays Camp. Alanna, we have a lot to get to. As always, spring training is in full force. The ABS is going. Some places better than others. What's going on?
Yeah, it's funny too, Ken, because I always figure out that you're going to be someplace. It's always like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Where in the world is Ken Rosenthal? Always great to be with you, my friend. I just read an article that you wrote in The Athletic about the Houston Astros. Of course, we're so used to Ken, the Astros being such a perennial power, but is the bulk of the fabric, is too much of it gone for them to be able to do what we know that they've been capable of doing the last decade plus?
Well, Alanna, thanks. And that's the point of what I wrote about today, or the question at least I raised. And in the past, when they've lost players, it was Springer one year, Correa the next year, Cole. That was one a year, pretty much. There's some peripheral guys too, they come and go. This year, it's three guys, three pivotal performers in their championship run, their great run of all the consecutive ALCSs and the 8 straight playoff appearances. I'm talking, of course, about Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, and Ryan Presley. And if you want to throw in Justin Verlander, who didn't have a great year last year, you could even include him. So they've done some things to supplement what they have, of course. And they've brought in Isaac Paredes. They've brought in as well, a number of other guys that they
Christian
feel is
Walker,
going to
yeah.
be, yeah, Christian Walker as being the main other one. And they feel it's going to be okay. But it's a lot different. And Altuve's going to left field. That's different. So we'll see. And it's interesting. Christian Walker told me the reason he was attracted to the Astros, even after Tucker was traded to the Cubs, he signed a week after that happened. Christian Walker said, you know what? I just think the culture here, the winning here, the whole environment that they've created is something I wanted to be a part of. Well, it's a different environment now. Doesn't mean it's going to be a worse or lesser environment, but it's going to be different, and it's going to be really interesting to see whether they can sustain their success now that they've lost these three pivotal pieces in Bregman, Tucker, and Presley.
Ken, I really appreciate Jose Altuve, who certainly did not have to make a move at a position because of his tenure, because of his leadership, because of his resume. He speaks for itself. But he is willing to move from second base to left field. I kind of question this move for a variety of reasons. Do you see this making sense? Obviously, you love the selflessness from Jose Altuve, but is it a smart move in terms of a position change?
He has rated really poorly at second base for several years now. And talking to him a couple of days ago and talking with Chandler Rome, our Astros beat writer, who of course hosts the podcast on our network, it's as if Altuve is liberated. He feels re-energized by this position change, kind of motivated by it. So I do like it. And so far he's done well. And he told me I'm going to be better than people think. And I sort of believe him. I sort of trust Jose Altuve. So it's interesting. They originally said it was only going to happen if Bregman came back, and then Paredes would have moved to second. But no, it was apparently in the plans all along. And maybe this will kind of give Altuve a new life as he's about to turn 35 in his career. Maybe it just kind of energizes him a little bit. And from that perspective, I do like it, Alanna. Actually, I like it a lot.
It's funny too because he told Julia Morales, who does a great job covering the Houston Astros, I'm officially an outfielder. He gave away his infield glove to a fan there at spring training, and he said, "I'm going to prove a lot of people wrong." So we'll see how the Jose Altuve outfield experience goes. Before we move on to Nolan Arenado and perhaps showcasing his talents there in Florida, Ken, I wanted to go back just a moment about the culture that is the Houston Astros. You had mentioned that Christian Walker told you specifically that he believes in the culture of the Astros. Obviously, they have a winning one. But when you have so many key pieces like the Carlos Correas, the Kyle Tuckers, the Ryan Presleys, the Alex Bregmans going away, is it almost as if a dynasty has ended in terms of, if you look at perhaps, let's make a comparison, if you will, to the New England Patriots? It's very difficult to do what the Patriots have done in the past without the services of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Is there a comparable here?
That's a great question. And I'm not sure of the answer. But in a baseball sense, the one thing that might hold the Astros back here, and I mentioned this in the article, is their farm system. It rates 29th, according to the Athletics' Keith Law. It is not one of the better ones in the game, obviously, if you're ranking 29th. And keep in mind, they lost their first and second rounders in 2020 and 21. Those players, if they had drafted them, probably would be close to the majors or in the majors right now. And they've traded a number of prospects over the years for Verlander, for Kikuchi, and that has also depleted what they have. Now, they traded also for Cam Smith in the Kyle Tucker trade. He was the 14th pick in the draft by the Cubs last year, and they feel he might be the kind of next guy coming along, but he's a year or two away, probably at least. So that gap might be the thing that kind of keeps them from being the team that they would want to be in 2025 and even in a couple of years beyond. But they do have that Patriots thing going. And listen, every time they've lost a player, we've wondered, how are they going to do it?
Yeah.
And Joe Espada, in his spring training address to the team, said, we lost Springer, Tucker stepped up. We lost Cole, we had Javier and Urquidy and Fromber. They all stepped up. And every time this has happened, Carlos Correa, Jeremy Pena wins ALCS and World Series MVP. So maybe the creation of opportunity here will ultimately lead to the same kind of thing happening. Maybe there's a player we haven't even envisioned being a big part of what they do stepping forward this year. That's the interesting thing about the Astros. Can they, in this particular circumstance, which is different, multiple players now have left, multiple important players, that's going to be the question.
Yeah, it's kind of that next man in mentality. Okay, before we get to break here, I wanted to bring this up too. Every day it seems like Ken Rosenthal, we're wondering, is Nolan Arenado going to be a St. Louis Cardinal? And sometimes we look way too into things in spring training that we're making more of it than we should be. But Nolan Arenado, a veteran player, a perennial all-star Gold Glover, Platinum Glove winner, made the trek the Cardinals to play in the Yankee game, which is 3 hours away. I mean, this is a 3-hour trip and veterans, senior guys in this business, Ken, they don't do that necessarily. Are we making too much of it? Was he trying to showcase his skill set to the Yankees, or does he just need to get some reps?
He indicated we were making too much of it. And he said, hey, I wanted to stay on schedule. It's only the third day of spring training. I didn't want to have 2 days off. I also wanted to see my friends, DJ LeMahieu and Paul Goldschmidt. I get it all, and those are all valid explanations. At the same time, it is so rare when you see veterans make that kind of trip, accomplished veterans like Arenado. And we all know he wants to be traded. He probably would love to be a Yankee. Who doesn't want to be a Yankee? Players generally want to play for them. So I understand his explanations. I thought they were pretty much valid, but I'm still not buying it completely. I still believe
Yeah.
he wanted to be on that trip to play at Steinbrenner Field. Now, granted, he said, and he made the point, why would I be showcasing myself so early in the spring when I'm not going to be myself, really? I'm just kind of getting into form. And he did go for 3. But I don't know. It just seemed to me there was a little more to it than Nolan suggested.
You know, it's funny too, because it's not as if the Yankees don't have a scouting report on Nolan Arenado. You don't have to be in the building for them to know who Nolan Arenado is. And sometimes, Ken, these guys don't even want to play day games after night games in spring training. So I find it comical, but that's okay. We'll see where Nolan Arenado is going to start the season or where he's going to be at the trade deadline. All right, we're going to be back after a word from our friends over on Foul Territory talking about Arena Club. We'll be right back.
All right, FT fam, collectors. There is a new, better way to buy, sell, trade, or display your sports cards. It's called Arena Club. And Kratz, I know you love it. The FT fam's got to go to arenaclub.com/foul to sign up and get a little extra something I'll tell you about in a moment. But buying in the past was clunky.
It wasn't easy. But now you don't have to worry about any of the shipping. And it's all it's easy right there. It's guaranteed authentic too for me, so I don't have to worry about that.
Exactly. Arena Club uses blockchain technology to deliver your card immediately. There's no shipping delays. You don't lose your card in transit. There's no, oh, my dog ate the card and now you don't have it, so here's a different one instead. So right now, 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul. Use code FOUL. That's arenaclub.com/foul. Code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase.
All right, welcome Arena Club to the show. We appreciate you very much. As we continue here on the lead, Alanna Rizzo, Ken Rosenthal here on Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. Let's talk a bit about Kyle Finnegan. Looks like he's going back to Washington, obviously, Ken. And, some folks were talking about that perhaps a more of a contender should have signed him in terms of perhaps the Red Sox, perhaps the D-backs. They're probably a lot closer to the postseason than the Nats are. Is that a fair assessment, or do you think that those two clubs are still going to be okay without Kyle Finnegan as their closer?
Alanna, those two clubs are unsettled at closer, but they feel like they have options. And with the Red Sox, it's Chapman, it's Liam Hendricks, it's Justin Slayton. And in the Diamondbacks case, it's Justin Martinez and it's AJ Puck. So they feel they have the bodies to sort through and go about this. Now, the question is, why didn't Kyle Finnegan sign earlier? Why didn't he get more and all that? And he had the kind of year that statistically might have looked okay, but it wasn't as okay as perhaps the ERA indicated. And there were some underlying things that held teams back. So at this time of year, you're always wanting to look at your team and say, could we do a little bit better? And maybe with Kyle Finnegan, those clubs could have, but I would imagine Kyle Finnegan wanted some assurance of closing. That's what he would want to do, sign a one-year deal, maybe have a better year and do better next year. And maybe the Red Sox and Diamondbacks were not willing to give that to him, or maybe they did not see him worth the value when they have options already in camp.
Sometimes security is all you need. You want to go ahead and sign to know at least you're going to be employed for the next year. You figure out things after that as the season goes along. All right, get those questions in on an opportunity now for you to ask Ken Rosenthal here on Grillin Ken. So let's get to that. How about some Grillin Ken? Get ready. All right, Ken, I see that grill. So I'm going to ask you the first question here. It's a heavy hitter, okay? What is your favorite ballpark smell?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say the green grass, but I think people want to hear the aroma, the food smell. So I'm going to go with, I haven't been there in a while, but the garlic fries in San Francisco, that's
Oh,
pretty good. And certainly
that's a good
popcorn,
one.
you see it right there. Popcorn's always a good choice.
All right, so mine's not necessarily an olfactory element. It's not so much the smell of a ballpark, Ken, but one thing I appreciate, as much as I hate getting up early, I'm more of a night game than a day game person, but there's something very special about getting to the park super early before the park wakes up. When the grounds crew is out there raking the dirt, mowing the lawn, the sprinklers are on, the sun's coming up. That's something that's pretty special. I love to see the ballpark wake up for a day game. All right, coming up here on Grillin Ken, we got a good question in terms of the Nolan Arenado trade deadline. So as we continue our Nolan Arenado conversations, as far as that is concerned, we'll put the question up here momentarily. I tell you what, though, it's like it seems like we just can't stop talking about this. We know he wants to be traded.
Because he's still
We
on the
know,
Cardinals.
yeah, I mean, it's just insane. All right, so Jules Hayes has this to ask you. Will the market for Arenado look any different at the deadline? Will he widen his pool of acceptable landing spots?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I don't know is the answer. And keep in mind, Nolan Arenado is just not signed for this year. It's 2 more years after that. So if
Wow.
he makes a choice on where to go, he's committing to 2+ years. At this point, it's 3 seasons. He has insisted that his list would not change, but at the deadline, a need might arise for another team, and maybe that team's pretty good, and he's smelling the World Series. Things are always changing, and he is free to change his mind at any time. I mean, it's his call. When you have a full no trade clause, you have the control. So certainly, as the season progresses, different players get hurt, different players disappoint, more opportunities might arise for him, or perhaps they won't. And that's going to be interesting too. And there's one other thing to keep in mind here. Let's say he stays, Alanna. Let's say he stays and the Cardinals are competitive. Now, we don't really expect that, but there are 6 playoff teams in each league. It's kind of hard to fall out of contention in the first half. Maybe he thinks, you know what, this isn't so bad. Let's go and stay here and see what happens.
Yeah, I think Nolan Arenado ultimately wants to win. I think that's the biggest driver for him. All right, next question here on Grill and Ken. Keep getting those questions in. opportunity to ask Ken a question. Anthony Rizzo, which, by the way, today is my brother Anthony Rizzo's birthday. So happy birthday, Anthony. The other Anthony Rizzo is still unsigned. So Bernie Suarez wants to know, Ken, is free agency over at this point, or can we expect guys like Rizzo and JD Martinez to sign soon?
Well, happy birthday to your brother as well, Alanna. And as for the question, Bernie, free agency is not over. It's never over. There's no deadline. There's no point of the spring or season where players can't sign anymore. So it's still possible those guys will sign. And in some ways, it might hinge on what happens this spring, just as I was mentioning with Arenado, but in the shorter term. Are teams liking what they see from their DH first base situation in Rizzo's case and the DH situation in Martinez's case? We'll see. Teams always think at this time of year, right before the games start, and the games have started now, but around this time of year, they think they're good. Oh, yeah, we're good. We fixed ourselves in the offseason. We're ready to go. And then the games start and things happen, and they start wondering, maybe we're not as good as we thought we were. So there's still opportunity for those players. Obviously, with JD, it's a restricted role, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. Most teams don't even want a set DH, but we'll see what happens. It's not over, to answer your question.
Could Anthony Rizzo also be in more of that restrictive role as a DH, or do you see him playing first someplace?
I would think a team that signs Anthony Rizzo wants him to play first. Teams value versatility anyway. They want players doing as much as they can, or giving them the ability to do as much as they can by being flexible. And while Rizzo's not flexible in terms of positions that he plays on the field, he is a first baseman. So I would expect if he signs, it's at first base.
All right, so defensively at first base, and of course, what he gives you as a DH. Last question here for Grillin Ken. Who do you anticipate, Ken, to be the most exciting prospect from 2025? Who are you looking forward to see?
I'm looking forward to seeing all three Red Sox players. And we're talking about, of course, Roman Anthony, Marcelo Mayer, and Christian Campbell. Campbell, we might see before any of them. It seems like they're very high on him. And one of the reasons they're thinking about Bregman at third and Devers at DH is because they want Christian Campbell to play. They want him to play second base, most likely. Now, if he has a poor spring and they change their minds and they see some things that they want him to work on still, maybe they determine, no, that doesn't work for us. Let's put him back in AAA. We can wait a couple of months, whatever it's going to be, play Bregman at second, Devers at third, and we can make the move later. But those three guys are kind of the talk of the sport right now, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they perform and how this new era of Red Sox baseball takes shape.
Yeah, it seems like a bunch of musical chairs, if you will, with the Boston Red Sox. But I do think that they will have a competitive team, and we'll see what happens in that AL East. All right, that is it for Grillin Ken. How about we go to Dude of the Week?
Dude.
All right, Ken, this is the opportunity for you and I to give props to a person or an entity or an organization. Who is your Dude of the Week?
Well, my Dude of the Week is a fellow baseball writer, and before people start screaming out there, it's supposed to be a player, a general. No, I can do whatever I want. It's our Dude of the Week, mine and Alanna's. And my Dude of the Week is a fellow writer who announced that he is leaving the Los Angeles Times last night on X. His name is Mike DiGiovanna. Mike has been doing this a really long time. We go back together almost 40 years, and he has been, throughout his career, a brilliant writer, of course, but also kind of guy you want to hang around with, just a classy, great, kind person. And it was cool for me also to see in an age when a lot of writers lose jobs that are not their choice. Mike was able, because the LA Times offered a buyout, to make a decision on his own, to call his own shot and to step away before he wanted to, but at the same time to do it on his terms. So congratulations to Mike on a great career, and we all wish him well and think of him only as the best.
Yeah, he's been with the LA Times for 4 decades, covered the Angels, the Dodgers, the Chargers, everything Los Angeles. A great writer, a great friend. He was just on Dodgers territory the other day. I agree with you. It's nice to be able to for him to go out on his own terms. He said, "I'm still going to freelance a little bit, still can't give it up cold turkey," but now he can do it when he wants to. Congratulations, DG. We're very proud of you. My dude of the week is Marcus Stroman, and the reason I picked Marcus Stroman, Ken, is I think we're so quick to jump on him when we perceive him to do things that maybe we wouldn't do or that we don't like, or we think that, he can be, and I'm speaking for myself, sometimes it appears that he can be a little bit selfish sometimes. But I think Marcus Stroman is also very misunderstood. And I love the fact that he was willing to continue to donate and support the families devastated by the LA fires. And I think what's interesting for me too about this particular gesture from Stroman is he doesn't have any specific ties, as far as I know, to Los Angeles. I mean, it's not his birthplace. He didn't go to high school there. He didn't go to college there. He's a New York kid. He's never played in the Los Angeles Angels or Dodgers organization. And good for him for wanting to give back to a community that has absolutely been devastated. So for those of us that criticize Marcus Stroman, I also think we need to praise Marcus Stroman when he does something so selflessly like this. So for that, Marcus Stroman is my dude of the week. Time now for the John Fisher Dork of the Week award. And Ken, for once, it's nothing to do with the athletics organization. Who is your dork of the week?
First of all, Alanna, great choice for dude of the week. Marcus is certainly deserving of it after what he did for the victims out in LA. It's really cool to see that. Now, my dork of the week is someone who does play for a Los Angeles team, and I'm kind of threading the needle here. Now, here's what Kike Hernandez did. He tried to challenge the strike call with the new ABS system, and the only issue is they aren't using it at this ballpark. Thank you to Dodger Blue for that tweet. And that's kind of not really dork quality, but I owe Kike. I owe him from last year after the Dodgers closed out the division series, and he asked me the question on live television, are we live? Yes, and then he gave his answer. His answer went viral. It's cool. We get it. However, it was a violation of the FCC. So, Kike, I probably owe you about 10 dorks of the week. You got a little bit of a fine for that. It wasn't enough. But Kike Hernandez, dork of the week. And he knows I'm saying this, well, somewhat lovingly.
Yes, of course. It's an interesting. Kike is something. I tell you what, we've had some very interesting moments interviewing Kike Hernandez. Good for the game, but you never know what's going to come out of that kid's mouth. All right, my dork of the week is a guy that I have a lot of respect for. He's one of my homies, if you will, my Cuban brethren, my Cuban brother, Nestor Cortez. Stop it with the Yankees were the better team in the World Series, Nestor. I love you, but stop it. We were the better team in 2024 World Series versus the Dodgers. This coming from Noah Camaras. They can talk whatever they want to talk, but we win game 1, which we should have. We lost 2 and 3. We win game 4, and we should have won game 5. First of all, this is such an interesting comment and flex from a guy that gave up one of the biggest home runs in World Series history in terms of what we're talking about. Obviously, the home run to Freddie Freeman that completely changed the landscape and the course of the World Series is an interesting flex to me. And also, I would maybe agree with you if it was a play-in game, if it was even a 2 of 3, if it was a wild card series, but it wasn't as if it was just a small sample size. It wasn't even a 5-game series, Ken, even though they won it in game 5. It was a 7-game series, and if you truly were the better team, you would have won. It's like, we are what they thought we are, that type of that old quote. If you want to take a look at things, just if you're the better team, talk to the 5th inning, talk to fundamentals. Talk to the 5th inning in game 5. I love you, Nestor, but stop. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. You didn't. That's my dude of the week. Or dork of the week. The only thing
I want to add here is, and this is not your fault or anybody's fault. The tweet was a quote from an article in The Athletic by Tyler Kepner. Now, the tweet did not credit Tyler Kepner because that's what aggregators sometimes do. They don't credit.
Like that.
But I don't like that. That was in an article, a lengthy article by Tyler, a really good one about Nestor Cortez Jr. So, just to clarify that. As for the quote, I mean, players can believe whatever they want, and sure, he's entitled to think that. But anybody watching that World Series, it would be hard to say the Yankees were the better team. Just watch the games. I understand these things do turn on a dime. And sure, if they get through game 1, maybe everything changes. The whole world changes. But they didn't. And from there, it was just the way it was. So I admire Nestor for his forthrightness and for still believing, but nah, the Yankees were not the better team.
Nasty Nestor was not spot on in terms of that one. I wish him honest to goodness nothing but the best. I do think he will succeed and thrive with the Milwaukee Brewers.
And he's a great dude. He's a great guy. And, you know, he's had a good career so far, and he's done a lot of good things in the game, but that one might have not been
that one missed the mark a little bit. All right. We appreciate you guys. It looks like we have another question on pitching injuries and trades. All right, Sarah, go ahead and throw that up there. We're kind of circling back to Grillin Ken here, but that's all right. We'll take all the questions that we can before we run out of time here. Do we have that, Sarah? All right, I guess we're not going to do that. Let's just hit our friends at BetMGM and thank them for being a part of our show. We always appreciate them being here on Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. Let's shout them out. The Any Sport Parlay Boost. Get this offer when you download the BetMGM Sportsbook app or at BetMGM.com. BetMGM players add a parlay wager with the minimum odds at plus 400 to your bet slip. Bet up to the max stake and activate your token. If you win your bet with the token applied, you'll score extra winnings on your wager. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Always love BetMGM being a part of the show. Now it looks like, Ken Rosenthal, we are going to hit up this question here.
Let's do it.
It says, when teams dealing with pitching injuries, is it more likely they add through trades or kick the tires on some of the remaining free agents? This is from Sprucey_11.
Sprucey, thanks for that. And they'll explore every opportunity that they can, every avenue that they can to improve. Now, there are some free agents out there: Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, David Robertson in the bullpen, Phil Maton in the bullpen. So there are still players out there. Now, in Lynn and Gibson's case, I'm sure they want a certain salary level. Robertson too. And that's kind of what's holding them back. And even in Maton's case, it's always what holds a free agent back when they're not signed. They want an amount of money or an opportunity that does not exist for them. So it would depend on the team's urgency, and desperation might be a strong word, but desire to add a player and add payroll in that fashion. Trades are another possibility. And we've heard for quite some time now that the Padres have not the willingness necessarily, but the idea of entertaining at least thoughts on Dylan Cease and Michael King and Robert Suarez and the bullpen. Most likely it would be Suarez, in my opinion. AJ Preller, what he's doing in San Diego is trying to keep that team together as best he can. And they might be facing some financial pressures to move somebody, but the guy that I understand they would most like to move is Luis Arraez, not a pitcher. And they've also had thoughts of trading Jake Cronenworth, who has a lot of money left on his deal. But it seems to me that Preller has held off all this time, and I don't know that unless he gets the absolute deal he wants, he's going to move any of those guys. So my point is, trading for a pitcher at this point is much more difficult than going out and signing one. Now, Marcus Stroman, your dude of the week, is available. The Yankees will trade him. Jordan Montgomery with the Arizona Diamondbacks is available. But both those guys carry hefty salaries, and in Stroman's case, a healthy vesting option that kicks in at 140 innings. So it's going to give some teams pause. It always comes down to money, Alanna, right? And
always.
That is the case with both free agents and trades.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, my mom had a bumper sticker that said, "Money talks, and mine only says goodbye." And speaking of goodbye, Ken, it is time to say goodbye on our show. Ken Rosenthal, we appreciate you as always. This is Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. Coming up next, it is Fair Territory. Eric Kratz is at Cardinals camp. Maybe he'll talk to Nolan Arenado, who knows? Todd Frazier, Eric Kratz, and Scott Braun are the hosts. Ken will be back with a brand new Fair Territory on Monday. I follow Foul today with Dodgers Territory. Have a good one.
Thanks, Alanna.